radio DJ.
Just to be at the very least. If everything else fails, and everything else does fail, then you will be a radio DJ.
Yeah, I mean, that was George Carlin. I read his book. That was like where he started. He was like, oh, you do radio and then comedy and then movies. And then he made it all the way to movies, and he was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
You sit in a trailer all day. You don't get to write the words you say.
Well, Stephen Wright wanted to be like a radio guy, too.
Yeah.
And then he got good at telling jokes. And he was a radio guy in Reservoir Dogs.
That's right. He was. And I think he's even featured on the soundtrack, right?
Probably, yeah. I think so. He does doing the intros for the songs.
And we watched So I Married an Axe Murderer a few years ago, and he pops up in that. He's like flying a helicopter for a minute.
He was everywhere for a little bit.
I bet he's one of your influences, if I had to guess.
Well, my favorite comic of all time, yeah. It sucks because he's still alive, but he doesn't do anything. Like he doesn't. I think his last special was 2006.
Yeah.
He wrote a book last year or 2 years ago, and it's really good.
He popped up on Louis a few times, like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's weird because he's Boston, but he's like, I mean, I guess all the one-liner guys are so singular that they don't really seem like they belong to any scene. Him, Mitch.
Yeah, I think now he just lives in like New Hampshire and rides his bike around everywhere.
That seems smart.
It kind of rules.
Instead of chasing
pocketed all of it. He's made it. He doesn't have to worry about shit.
He can probably, if he ever wants to write a book or make a movie, a short film, he can just do that.
He does whatever he wants, yeah.
So, yeah.
Which rules.
Why?
He's a dog.
Yeah, travel and beg for the approval of strangers.
He's like one of the few famous comics that I know of that if you go to his website, he'll have maybe like 5 dates for the whole year.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It rules. It's the dream.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't you just want to do less comedy forever?
I'm just starting to get there. I've been doing like 3 a week for like so many years, and like a lot of those are like 5-minute mic sets. And I'm just starting to get to where like,
How long have you been doing comedy?
9 years last month.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Just had 1,000 sets. I'm a maniac.
Oh, you kept track of that shit?
Yeah, so that was
nuts.
That was my goal all along.
Rules.
Yeah. My goal was to do 1,000 sets and then film something, and that's scheduled. So I'm like, I've kind of like done. I don't have any delusions about being famous or like making a lot of money, but I think now I'm going to try to do comedy in all 50 states. I think that's kind of. I have goals, but not. I've kind of done most of them. Like the Dry Bar I did a special. Like the lofty ones are like, TV shit, whatever. That'll just happen maybe. I don't know. But like 50 states is the one that you can do, you just have to try. Like if you just have to figure out who to hit up. Yeah, you don't even have to be good to do it.
You don't have to be good at all.
You can just make that because I want to see all 50 states anyway.
Yeah,
so I'm like, why don't I just do it? I've done like
most
10, I think 10 states.
Okay.
So,
Are they all in the South, or are they just like
East Coast? Okay. And then I'm counting Utah as my 10th. I'm kind of getting a little ahead. I've booked the 10th one, but it's a lot of like Florida up to New York, and then but most of them are like South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia,
the tri-state area.
Yeah, the capital of world capital.
You should go to the Midwest,
the Southeast.
Yeah, go to the Midwest.
Yeah, the Midwest is legit, right? That's like it's all cold or something. Like there's enough misery out there for people repressed. Yeah, cold West. Like people are very funny from that area.
Yeah, comedy's really hard over there too. It's especially hard in the South. I've noticed. This is my second foray living in the South.
Like, let's give it another try.
It's just worse.
And now you're like, why the fuck did I?
Like everything. And it's deeply rooted in politics and education. And my jokes are stupid, but you have to get them.
Yeah.
And people here are stupid and they don't get them.
Yeah.
Not everybody, obviously. There's a lot of smart
just
people
most.
in the South. But man, it's crazy. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to shit on normal people.
You can,
but most of them suck.
Yeah, and one of the rules of this podcast is like, well, the first one is you don't have to be funny unless it just happens, and the second one is like, you should feel free to say a lot of things that tomorrow you're like, I didn't even feel that way.
Oh, I feel all of this.
Okay,
about the South. I've done it enough. I like touring the South. Honestly, like it's very fun.
Like, no, I'm gonna stand by.
Yeah, I think it makes you better. Which that's why so many good comics come from the South and the Midwest. Is nobody there is smart, and you have to write good jokes.
Yeah, they have to cut
and
through.
And if they don't, then you can go up to the Northeast or the Northwest or whatever and find your fans. If you're writing smart, good material, you don't have to write smart material. I'm not very smart.
I prefer
to be smart.
I prefer to get my smart stuff from things besides comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally, though, something can be done.
Interesting material.
Interesting, yeah. Unique,
interesting, not smart, which it kind of just ends up being smart because if it's unique, no one's done it.
I mean, I like Norm Macdonald's probably like my all-time favorite, and he's like, he keeps his comedy pretty dumb seeming, but he's actually extremely smart.
Good, so smart.
But when you're up there, you're not trying to be like,
no, you
listen
don't
up, idiots. I'm going to talk about policy.
You don't, whatever. But you also don't want to assume that the crowd's stupid either.
Yeah.
And I don't do that. I hope that they aren't dumb.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like dumb people like as much. I don't, smart people. I work with a bunch of nerds with PhD. I mean, I kind of, dumb people are fine.
People.
You know? Yeah, it's like,
you should go deeper in the South. You should go do a show in like South Florida.
Yeah, I did do one in Key West, and that was definitely it was like very, very, very not Asheville. Like just every T-shirt was just like one for Joe, one for the hoe. Like I was like, whoa, all right, yeah, this is.
This is 2 bullets. That's insane. Those people are nuts. I love it.
Yeah,
they're the worst people in the world.
Yeah,
we live in hell.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with people being like feeling different than me or being dumb or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I do, a fair number of shows to people from New York, and I feel like I do have done comedy there, and I feel like I do have a feel for like what the New York, like the best, smart, and I get that that's like the classic style and arguably the greatest, but sometimes to me, like when I listen to that, I'm just like, this just feels kind of like old time. I almost feel like the Midwest and the South, like, it's like hip hop where maybe in 10 years we're going to have our own fucked up version that becomes the mainstream version because
I think you do, and I think it's the people that are mostly on the road. Like that's the style it is. Because the people in like New York or LA, even like Austin or Seattle, they don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
They have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
For people like I'm from Kansas City, when I started in KC, there was no comedy. So I had to go out. And you build that. And I'm sure in Asheville, you've been here the whole time. You've been doing comedy.
Yeah.
I don't know what Asheville was like.
And I'll die here too. I got kids,
your stuff,
career. Yeah,
nice house.
But I am trying to tour. Yeah, we got a nice little house.
You got a good podcast shed. It's fun.
And I am trying to learn how to expand. Just in the last couple of years, like tour. And I mean, that's I like your jokes. I mean, there's a lot of reasons I want to talk to you, but I like watch people do comedy, and you can obviously learn a lot. We all do that, but I also watch the way people like book tours or shows or seem to do like you've done a lot in the time that you've been doing it, whereas like a lot of people will just hang around forever and just kind of get resentful. So I think that's one of the reasons I was interested in you is you seem like you kind of write jokes different than most with but then you also kind of seem like you approach touring and well, your time differently.
I've been to enough scenes and met enough people that do just hang around. Like before I lived here, I was in Chicago for a couple of years, and one of the first guys I met had been doing comedy as long as I had, which was at the time 10 or 11 years. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, do you ever go do comedy anywhere else? He was like, no. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
And for some people, it becomes like this elitist thing to make them feel better about not trying harder,
rationalizing your own cowardly
but in truth he just wasn't very good at comedy and didn't care to get better and took it out on other people. Like if you want to be that, fine, whatever, but don't talk to me about how you're doing comedy.
The assholes when you travel around and there's some like asshole and most people are great, it's usually somebody that's never left. I think just leaving your home base makes you humble because you have to walk into other rooms in other cities and be like, oh, I don't know anybody.
Well, it's scary.
Maybe I should be nicer to people that come to my scene from afar.
Sure. Like if you do it as a hobby, just say that. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk to you about it anymore. I'm an elitist and I've earned it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like you got to go everywhere. You got it. Like my favorite place to go is Denver or Colorado, like the area around Denver.
Yeah.
Because they're comedy fans. They love comedy. But when I eat shit in Denver, I'm like, oh, this is fine. Like, as I've dealt with it everywhere else.
Yeah.
I bomb everywhere I go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's awesome. It's such a privilege to eat shit.
in new
wherever
places.
I want.
Yeah. Why eat shit in the same? If you're eating shit in the same room,
that's how every time I do.
At least it's a different type of shit.
Yeah, almost every time I do Catawba, Melissa's shows, I love Melissa and all her shows. I can't figure out Catawba. I've resorted to.
It's the hardest room ever.
It's impossible. I've resorted to, and the people who crush there, I admire with every inch of my being. And I do okay there sometimes, right? It's whatever. But I've resorted to talking about the room and making jokes about the room just to ease them in,
just
to
the
whatever
jokes.
I'm about to pull out.
Yeah, you got. I mean,
it's difficult.
It's got to be packed in there to even have a chance, and it's often not. I mean, I also grateful for any opportunity. I know I'm just like, hey, I'll get the reps in. I do mics sometimes when there's like 5 people there.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got all this dead air, and then you have that fan that's like click, and then you're like setting something up, and it's like boom, it stops,
There's
and you're
nothing we can do about the fan.
Because I watched you. We just did it this weekend, and I noticed you did interject, like you did a lot of like messing with them, and I'm just getting ready to tape something, so I'm like, I just want to stand here,
stick to it,
and after like 10 minutes, I was like, this is just you can't just say material. I'm losing confidence in all the stuff I want to tape. I hate it all now.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what scenes need, is that hard room, like 2 or 3 hard rooms. People like in Kansas City, they'll talk about how there aren't any good mics anymore for whatever reason, and it's like, good. There shouldn't be. You should be at bad mics all the time. Just eat it at bad mic. Oh, there's no crowd. Who gives a shit? Yeah, you don't need a crowd. Like people talking about what's that? The mic on Wednesdays here.
Music Hall.
Is it the
Disclaimer?
Yeah. I haven't been to it yet. I'd love to go because it's apparently a good mic with a good crowd, which is fun a lot of the time.
It's crazy,
right?
It's so well attended.
But it shouldn't be a mic.
Yeah, it's a show.
It should be just a booked open mic or a booked showcase.
You should reach out to Carrie and just let them know that you would like to come on a weekend, and I'm sure they would give you a spot.
They do like shows, right?
Not as much as they should. They kind of have been like they basically started the comedy scene like 15 years ago with that brand, and it's been everywhere, and it's the best. I mean, I think it's still the best show, even though it's an open mic, it's very well run, and occasionally they'll do a show, but I think they're just like, it exhausts them just doing a show every week. And I'm like, you guys are my heroes. Because if I ran one weekly show, that's all I do. But I don't run. This is my show. And then I want to travel and stuff.
Sure.
As soon as you run a weekly show, you're not going.
That's kind of the issue with producing stuff, is you can't do it alone. You gotta have somebody, not even really you trust, just a cabal.
Trust might be asking
a cabal of idiots to host your show. Like I used to produce, I think 5 or 6 shows at a time in Kansas City, just because I was the only one doing it, really, and they needed it. I can't imagine how depressed I would be if I was doing that now, 5 or 6 shows a month, or I think it was a month. I was doing like Don't Tell, which took care of itself, and some other ones that I didn't have to worry about. But it's tough. I don't produce anything now. Yeah, and it's a weird. You don't realize it's a hole until you think about it. And you're like, oh shit! I used to like dedicate a lot of time. Or I don't do a podcast anymore either. Yeah, I don't do any comedy shit anymore. I hang out with my girlfriend. We get high and we watch movies.
Yeah, trying to reach that Stephen Wright level of like you write enough good one-liners and you just get to ride your bicycle.
You're done.
Yeah. Like, do we got enough checks yet? Yeah, I mean, I ran a show before the pandemic where it was in a room very similar to Catawba. It was a brewery room with just an infinite ceiling of dead air and noises, and it was just so...
Where's it at?
So it was at French Broad River Brewing.
Oh, okay.
And they're very nice, but it was just... I was kind of glad the pandemic killed it. Now I just do this, and then I try to really let people know that I appreciate the shows they run.
Yeah.
If you set up chairs, you're my hero. Even if you don't book me, it's like if nobody's doing that, there's no shows. So I think you've put your time in, and you shouldn't be expected.
To but I do
shows for forever.
I'll see like some shows around town. Obviously not Melissa because she's got her own shit. She's figured it out. But some of the newer people like running stuff or just. It's fun to be in a scene of younger people. All
the good people leave.
And see, they all leave. They go to Atlanta or something or New York.
Exactly.
which is great. Good for them. Yeah. But it makes you see all these people doing stuff that you know how to do well, and they're doing it poorly.
Yeah.
And it makes you want to do something to help them be better at it. That's it. That's really the only reason I would run shows again. And I'll probably start doing it, honestly, at some point.
Yeah, it's like a karma thing, I mean, I play drums now.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be like, it's my songs, look at my head singing.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, well, comedy takes care of that narcissist head. So I drum for people, so I'm like, I will support your song. Like, I feel like you got to be setting up chairs and running a show is a very like community-minded thing, where it's like no one wants to. I want the good spot on the show, and then I want to leave before I have to be break down.
I love doing one of Melissa's shows early, whenever she puts me on early, and then going to the grocery store and then getting home before 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
it's the best.
Yeah.
We go to bed at like 11 o'clock every night.
Oh, it's great.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I'm such an old. I can't imagine doing like 3 mics a night until midnight.
Yeah.
Like I used to sometimes.
Yeah.
It sounds awful.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reevaluating my kind of goals too. I started in my 30s and now I'm in my 40s, and it's been like a decade of. So I'm like, it's how much you get back for, like, I'm not going to drive to some other place to do less than 10 minutes.
No,
I mean, that's
anymore.
just,
unless they're giving me.
But
like
I have,
$200.
and and
sure.
it's like, and sometimes you do that, and then
that's why you
make
know
a
you don't
connection.
want to do it anymore.
Yeah,
because you've done it, and you're like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. Great, good.
Yeah,
and hopefully it was in the first like 3 or 4 years of you doing comedy, and not like a month ago.
It's like 6 months ago.
Where'd you go?
It's earlier this year. No, I'm just kidding. It's but I am kind of foolish with my time. Like I have a career and like a family, but then comedy is kind of just this weird. It started to finance itself a little bit now, but then if you throw a hotel in, that gets to be maybe break even at the end of the year.
That's the problem with touring, is that the net gain is not great anymore. I mean, I don't know if it ever really was, but unless you're like back when Sam Talent, back when Sam was, before he was kind of famous, like he was famous among comics.
Yeah,
as like the road guy. He'd be getting decent money for his shows, even though he wasn't like a household name. I'm not doing that, so I can't like justify it as much anymore. Like the one-nighters here and there, gone for 3 weeks at a time. Can't do it.
Yeah,
it's just too expensive.
Yeah,
you don't get paid enough ever anywhere.
Yeah,
And
I think I've reached a place in my life with my mental health where like I don't know that I would want to, like the way that Sam does it now. My understanding from reading about him is that like it's like if I could have, I don't expect this, but every weekend you fly out and you do like 4 shows or 5 shows, and then you just come back and you hang out with your family, and you like you don't even have to grind the mics. You can just work. You're getting hours on the weekends.
And you're getting as much time as you want to do.
Yeah.
So you get an hour and 15 minutes. Just lay out 20 minutes there for new stuff.
It's like a shifted work week where you work on the weekends and then you chill during the week and have life experiences, and you don't have to worry about getting to a mic for 5 minutes like that. To me, that would be but I don't, I'm just like, let's try all 50 states. That's under my control. I don't know that I.
Well, that's what I was doing earlier this year, which feels like 20 years ago at this point. But like the first 4 or 5 months of the year, I had almost every weekend booked. And I'd be gone 3-4 days, fly back, hang out.
Yeah.
I walked dogs in Chicago when I was there, so I would walk dogs, make a little bit of money, go out again. And I made good money doing that. Yeah. Which good money. It was like 10 grand in 5 months. Yeah, well, which is pretty good for comedy. Like the best.
That's but far more than I'm making doing comedy.
Yeah, but I made. Well, I was subsidizing the feature weeks with the headliner weeks. Yeah. So, like, I would go out I headlined a weekend in Seattle. But I had to pay for a plane ticket, but they gave me a hotel voucher. So I got the cheapest hotel I could find and made a profit off the hotel voucher. And then like it was $200 a show. was it 4 or 5 shows. One of the shows got canceled, still got paid for it.
Yeah.
Like it was little shit like that.
Yeah.
You know, that eat whatever the hotels got for free.
Yeah. Steal
as much as you can
for later.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. You're one person among billions. Who gives a shit? If it's Walmart, set the fucking place on fire. Leave. Lock the doors with you inside of it, honestly.
Yeah, it's been interesting trying to like just get into touring and trying to crack the numbers. Like, you know, like stay on a motel that's on the side of the city that I'm traveling from. That was a mistake I made, where you get there at rush hour and you drive across the city to the other. You're like, fuck.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And then you get to one that's like just sketchy enough to be cheap, but not.
You gotta
still like reasonably safe. And if there's a McDonald's next door, you're like, okay, I can hang out there, free Wi-Fi, coffee. You know, I'll spend the day for $5.
Yeah,
doing.
You go to like a movie or something, like a matinee, or like a mall, and walk around for free. I always try to find the Motel 6.
Yeah,
wherever. If it's not in the city, though, it's got to be like outskirts. A lot of highway Motel 6s are pretty clean.
Yeah. They're
not in their $50, $60 a night.
Yeah, I mean, I just enjoy that, trying to crack the puzzle of it. You know, just like if you're making these horrible mistakes, it's like just like comedy. It's like you just got to be bad at it. So touring and getting booked is the same, and it just seems like most people never, because I've started doing some shows, so people will be like, hey, how do I play in Knoxville? And I'm like, send a video to this guy. And they go, well, I haven't got my video yet. And then they never do it.
Immediately,
and
it's an excuse.
First step, like 90% of people just never, and you're like, just send a bat. You're never going to be happy with your video. You're always going to hate the way you look. Just send one, and you've taken a step. But it's almost like people are like afraid to like take the step.
They're terrified to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
They all are. It sucks because I don't know, like I've noticed it in a lot of people in Kansas City too, and myself, who they'll they'll go to Mike's because it's a social thing.
Yeah.
They'll get hammered because they're alcoholics.
Yeah.
And if they have something good to look forward to, it makes them not want to drink, which then gives them conflict because they're gonna drink. And they're going to be like turds. So why bother when you're happy in your own shitty hole?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Why bother getting better at anything?
Yes, this lie that you tell yourself that like I'm working at comedy to get to the next thing is like you're just hanging out, drinking. I mean, which is
fine.
Yeah, it is fine.
Yeah.
But admit it to yourself maybe, or I don't know, or don't. That's also fine. But it's like I kind of like to see people. With the little bit that I know, I like to try to help people.
Yeah.
And it's like you think you want this, but you're not. Maybe you don't. Yeah. You know, like it's
and that's fine.
It is fine. It's like instead of sitting at home drinking alone, come to an open mic and drink. You have
drive home.
Community. Drive home. You know,
who cares?
Spend gas.
It's fine.
Risk safety.
Hang out with your buds.
Yeah.
Pass out at the bar. Yeah, like I've made like spreadsheets of like the comedy club one, which popped off, but I've also got regional ones like the Midwest like one-nighter contact list that I just give to my Midwest friends. And almost none of them have used it.
Yeah.
And I know this because they aren't getting booked anywhere.
Yeah.
So, like, at least they reached out and asked about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I get if your life is just too hectic that you can't book a weekend in Omaha or something. But also, that's one of the easiest things in the world to do. Just do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm preaching about this shit while I'm like actively not trying to get booked anywhere, which is and failing when I do try. So
it ebbs and flows. I mean, do you feel like I almost think there are like I don't know if it's safe to be like one-liner guys or like I don't like labeling people, but I know just a very small number of people who write these like short kind of poetic jokes, which I love. You know, I've always big fan of like all the Rodney and Mitch, all the people we talk about, Stephen Wright, Dimitri, and it's kind of jokes in its purest form, and it's odd how nobody seems to do that anymore. And it almost seems to me that like the one-liner comedians are more likely to approach booking or other things in a unique kind of like, there's something about that personality type where like, if you're writing short jokes, maybe you are more likely to know how to work a spreadsheet. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like you got that.
Yeah.
You're not just like blah 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 my trauma. You're kind of like
you're more analytical. Focused. You're more like I'm gonna try to make this easier for me. Yeah. By however means necessary. But people don't write jokes like that because they're not personal. People aren't going to relate. Like they're not going to relate to my sperm whale jokes.
Yeah.
You know, like that's why they're hard to come up with because you have to use your fucking imagination.
Yeah.
None of my jokes are based on anything real.
Yeah. What do you like? What does it look like when you get? You just like doing something non-joke related, and you just think of it and write it down, or
usually, yeah. Like before, nowadays it's really hard to write a joke because I've got just too much shit going on. It's hard to have empty brain space. But used to, I'd mow my grandparents' farm. They had like a 10-acre plot of land in the middle of Missouri. It would take like 4 or 5 hours to finish mowing. So I just mow that, and in 4 or 5 hours, I'd come up with like a few jokes. Anytime, like, you know, your brain is kind of on autopilot is the best way.
Like manual labor can be a good thing. You're like, there's motion.
Right before you go to sleep.
Brain.
I used to write a lot of jokes right before I fell asleep.
But not with the intention of just, like,
no,
you're just lying
if
there.
If you intend to do it, you're not going to write very good jokes.
Yeah, that's
For
what
me,
I found.
at
That's
least,
what I found. I've experimented with writing a little each day.
It's tough.
Never got one single good thing out of it.
I've recently started, within the last year, like trying to force myself to write jokes. And one, I hate it. I don't do it that much because it's such a drag. But two, most of the jokes you write suck, which is good. Like you should write shitty jokes.
Yeah, Jesselnick recently said like he went to some cabin and he wrote 1,000 jokes and like one of them.
Yeah,
I'm making
very Bon Iver kind of way to write a bunch of rape jokes.
Yeah, and then not use any of them. Yeah. I think Bon Iver's songs they succeeded, but he was saying like, but I don't regret it because I got all the shitty ones out of the way. And then when I'm driving to the Comedy Store going, I got to have something to say tonight. Yeah. And you have to think of something that there was still a value in writing a bunch of bad jokes.
You have to. Like, I used to, I counted how many jokes I wrote when I was maybe like four years in or something. It was over 1,500, I think.
Wow. You mean like keeper or just
ever?
Just
because like, I have it on my note app thing.
What's the hit rate? You get like
1 out of 10?
Yeah,
maybe.
Well,
maybe.
Super.
I mean,
high.
back then it was probably 1 out of 20. Nowadays, I write better jokes. I know how to write a better joke. So I'll, if I'm lucky, I'll get 10 jokes a year that I like, and 90 that stink.
Do you have like do you usually start with a setup or a punch or?
No, so now like when I'm forcing myself to do it, I have a little list of just one word subjects like treehouse, and then I'll just riff about tree houses for like a page.
You're like I think there's something funny about tree houses.
Yeah, you can just find anything funny about it.
Yeah, it is funny. There's something silly. About it.
if it's some like dumbass wordplay shit, even like at least that's something you wrote, something that's obviously been written before. That's kind of the trouble with one-liners too, is that if you just look it up on, back then I'd look it up on Twitter and see that like 18 nobodies have written the same joke. Yeah, not nobodies, but like they're comics that suck. Just regular people, you know, who had a clever idea once, and that was what it was.
Yeah, like if everybody's saying this idea, and I take it up on stage and deliver it in a way that makes it work, maybe it's a little public domainy. There's this the thing about like, does everything you say have to be 100% new and unique? You know, I mean, obviously, if your whole act is hack, that's bad. But
I've had multiple people hit me up and say, "Hey, I've been telling this joke that you have," and one thing that I have in my back pocket is that most of my jokes are old. So like most of the jokes that people have said they've had of mine, I wrote 10 years ago.
Yeah, you have a timestamp on it.
Yeah, because I would tweet it out like as soon as I come up with it.
Yeah,
not knowing like not because of that, but yeah, multiple times, and I'm just like, I'm not going to stop telling the joke. You have to stop because I have it, or you don't have to stop. I don't care. I couldn't care less.
Yeah, honestly. And I mean, so much of it is in like your delivery and how you weave them together and work the room. So it's like just having like one joke that's similar or the same. I just don't really think that's that problematic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't steal jokes or anything like that, but I also think like people can get a little weirdly possessive. Like I did songwriting.
I'm weirdly possessive.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, for sure. I love my jokes. If it's one of my jokes that I really, really like, I'll defend it to my death. which is pathetic.
Yeah.
But I love them. I think that they're good, most of them.
Yeah, they are like
and
poems.
I care about them. Yeah,
I think you do I mean, it seems like you get the words, you chisel it down to just the minimal number of syllables.
In Chicago, there's an open micer. He was a professional hockey player for the Blackhawks, and he has the same hockey joke that I have. I think hockey players should know how to swim, just in case. He basically has that same exact joke that he's been telling for 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. But he's so bad at comedy that it doesn't matter to me. And that's usually the case with the people who very rarely has somebody who I respect as a comedian come up to me and be like, hey, I've been telling this joke. Jesselnick was one of them. He had one in, I think, 2015 that was like a longer version of a part of my closer. So then he said it on Netflix, and I was like, oh, I'm done. That's it. So then I changed it. I changed the joke.
Yeah.
And hopefully made it better, but probably not.
Do you know Alex Joyce from Chicago? He lives in Chicago, but his family here. He comes back a few times a year, and he has these wonderful short jokes. Yeah. Where he just gets up and he just says them. He has a very slow rhythm, and he writes these. It's a very different style than yours, but he's one of the only other
I probably recognize him. I just don't know the name.
Chicago's a big city, but he's often he'll be on like the shows around the holidays. He comes back and sees his family, but he was on here.
I'll look him up after this.
I think it's great. I mean, I'm always kind of trying to, I think we all should be chiseling off what's not funny more. Yeah. And the people that do short jokes are like, should keep us, you need those comics in your scene to keep you from drifting too far and to just, whatever the hell it's can often be just rants, just endless rants without pauses, without timing, without punchlines.
Especially in the South.
Yeah.
There aren't comics like that. It's crazy. Like, it's everybody, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to, I'm not saying that, people don't write one-liners in the South, because they obviously do, but there just aren't very many good ones. And I think, you need that kind of, like, you need diversity in every way in your scene.
Right.
And that includes styles of comedy. We don't have enough musical comics in Nashville. What the fuck? What's going on?
I've dabbled, but I don't.
Bring your drum set up there.
I would do like one-liners with a guitar, I mean, it's been
classic.
Just the class, and it just felt I'd like the line between dad jokes and clever art.
Yeah,
it's just you're in the middle of a song and you're like, I'm on the wrong side of this shit. Fuck, and then so what are you gonna do? You have
constantly towing the line.
Yeah, so it's musical comedy. I don't know.
That's how I felt for 12 years.
Yeah,
like, am I a hack or are these clever? It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Yeah,
just keep doing it. Gives a fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the jokes are more naked. It seems to me when they're short. Like, it's not like, do I understand this? Like, short jokes, I'd imagine people probably really enjoy them or they don't.
Yeah.
It's like more of a binary.
It's really weird.
Reaction.
Most of my jokes aren't offensive in any way, but there's always somebody, like, if the Dry Bar that they posted some clips, people hate me. People will say, like, this guy's not funny at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just, you just don't like this kind of comedy. Doesn't mean I'm not funny.
That's how you know you're starting to do all right, when you have people be like, this guy's not funny. Like, I'm getting upset. You're getting that reaction, like, this guy's doing
like
well.
A bunch of Mormon grandmas who are just like pissed at me.
That's
like, dude, I'm sorry.
Until that happens, I don't think you can really say you've even like arrived at a
sure. Yeah,
it's like you need at least somebody to be.
It drives me. I mean, I love it. I think it's
success.
Really cool. I think it's like, there were some videos that did pretty well on Facebook a few years ago. It was like before TikTok like blew up. A few videos of mine, and hundreds of comments about how I suck at comedy. About like just the worst. Like, one guy who was from Scotland or Wales or something, he said, come over here and see what those jokes get you. He was like threatening to kill me. I was like, dude, I just told a joke about a snake like biting you.
I'm just following my dream. Like, I didn't even put this in your algorithm at all. Like,
But everything's
this
like,
guy
as
really
soon
needs
as
to
you as soon as you enter the sphere of whatever,
Yeah.
these people think it is like you're in competition with everything that they love.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Come over here and tell jokes like Tim Vine or some fucking like hacky British comic who tells one-liners too.
Yeah.
Like just puns. They love puns over there. Because I wasn't telling puns, they were like mad. Like, dude, I'm sorry.
I don't care for the puns too much.
Yeah, my bad. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so I
Psychos.
think the first time we performed together it was probably almost 5 years ago, like at Blue Ridge, when that first opened, Blue Ridge Comedy
I
Club
think it
in
was
Bristol.
like 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was still like the pandemic-y early days of that, and I think at that point I remember I'd heard about you, and you had like a video of you doing like one-liners with like metal music, like it was a cool little short, somebody had edited it for you. And I think that was before. That was probably before you did the dry bar. Probably after that.
It was before.
And then did the 4x3.
The 4x3.
I was at that taping. Yeah, last year.
Yeah, you were there.
So those kind of like, I just kind of getting ready to be taped. I'm just kind of curious what that experience has been like, getting taping things, putting them out, being like, well, this is it. I'm gonna do them the way I can do in this
really
room
weird
this time, and that'll be
It puts like a bookmark in your brain on the material that you've got, and it makes you think that you need like all the standards of being a comic. You think you have to follow. It's hard to write jokes, and I'm not gonna like retire shit because I told them on a YouTube video.
Yeah,
I
feel like there's less pressure to do that now than a few years ago. Which
there should have never been pressure.
Yeah,
like I get like Louis and Carlin and all these like quote unquote greats are like, you should do a new hour every year. Why? For who?
Yeah,
just for you. I mean, it's only for you.
Yeah,
unless you just want to keep cycling your mediocre comedy every year.
I mean, and like when Louis was saying that, like he was like, well, actually he still is like huge, but he was like, everyone watched every hour.
Yeah.
So I could see why in that case he comes back to town, you want new stuff. But that's 0.001% of like most, like every audience that I perform for has no idea who I am.
Exactly.
Like no one has, when the day comes where someone has watched all my videos and memorized all my jokes and they're like,
then maybe
that's a good problem.
Try to write 10 minutes.
Yeah, but I'm like, I don't expect, so it kind of doesn't really seem like for most working comics that even matters.
It's not really.
It's a business card to get you in the door with bookers or whoever. You're like, look, I've put out a thing, so that shows I'm a professional to some degree.
Unless you're, in somewhere like New York where you can get mics all the time, and you have, say, you're past like the Cellar or something, so you get paid okay. It's like $75 or $100 per set at the Cellar
for a spot,
which isn't great. Like, that's like what if you're a regular and you're not famous, $600 a week.
Yeah, if
you're lucky, if you get 10. I mean, if you get 10 sets, that's a lot. First of all, usually they think they get like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But if you're like in a comfortable position in a city where you can get up all the time, then maybe you can crank out like 10 minutes every month. But it's not like if you're on the road all the time, it's difficult. Like there's a lot of downtime, I guess, but it's constantly going occupies your mind, and you can't like sit down and try to focus on anything else.
Well, sometimes when I take a few months off, like what you're never supposed to do, like I've allowed myself that, and then I've come back with so many new things to say
jokes.
And energy. And so that's kind of weird too, this grind mentality of like, if I don't go out this week, other people will, and I'm getting this fear-based
it's a competition. Like they thrust themselves in this made up shit, and I think initially it starts off as like a motivation tactic, because I used to do the same thing. Like I played sports in high school, and this was kind of the replacement for that when I was in my early 20s.
What sport?
Baseball. I couldn't play baseball anymore. So I was like, I got to be the best at doing comedy, or, the best at writing jokes, whatever. But some people will just turn it around and drive themselves insane by like these unmet expectations that they set for themselves. Nobody else is setting for them.
And you burn out, and that's the interesting thing. Just coming up on 10 years, like who's left even that long? Like that's kind of. That's why
it's crazy.
So many people so funny that just couldn't, whether they just got busy with life or they like they sent out emails to get booked that nobody responded to, and then that made them so mad that there's just like so many reasons. There's so many reasons to destroy yourself, quit, go crazy. Just trying to keep, like, I think you should totally be allowed to take a few months off. Just
There's nothing wrong with
out. Yeah, that can
It's
even
fine.
give you a new voice or a new perspective.
Yeah, or just you don't worry about it so much, and it takes pressure off of this weird idea that you're the next best thing. You know, like, it's okay. Just take a month off. Like, COVID ruled.
Yeah.
It was awful. One of the worst things that ever happened. Whatever.
But it was cool.
People died.
A lot of people
I was
died.
happy. I was fine. Yeah, like, 6 months of not doing anything?
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
I got to do Zoom shows in my bed?
Yeah.
Deal. All day. I would do that. I would trade everything just to do that again.
Yeah, the hurricane was a little like that, honestly.
Was a little,
Like I worked so hard to schedule podcasts and shows within my life, and then it was all wiped away for a month. I was like, this is amazing.
I know.
I don't want to do any of that.
No
shit.
expectations, nothing. And it's funny because you're the one putting the expectations on yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have a boss in comedy unless you have a manager who's just like money hungry.
Yeah.
Just take a break. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you live in somewhere like Asheville. If you take a break, who gives a shit? Nobody at all. Oh, you didn't go to 3 mics this week? Nobody noticed. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Just do whatever you fucking want.
Yeah.
Go on a vacation and don't do comedy. I've never done that, but you do it. You know, somebody else do it.
So do you have like a workout routine or goals or things that I know that's probably changed, over the years, but I mean, like when you look at like 2025, for example, do you have like, all right, I want to try to do this with comedy, or just take it as it comes?
After Dry Bar, like after the first half of this year, so I got Dry Bar, and after that, it was like, I don't know what else to do that's like attainable.
Oh, did you just film your Dry Bar? That was after?
February,
okay,
yeah.
so that was after the 4x3 one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so I was on the like roster for 2024, and then like 2 weeks later, after they told me that I was like in consideration, they were like, "Hey, we had a cancellation. Can you, in these 3 dates, can you do this?" And I had one weekend open.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, of course I'll do that.
Hell yeah. So how long did it take for it to come out?
9 months.
9 months? That's
If
not too bad.
I mean, it was basically what they told me it was going to be.
That's kind of nice, because if it comes out the next month, if there is that person that watches it and sees you, which I don't expect there ever to be, it gives you time. Like, your act's going to change over those 9 months somewhat.
I don't tell most of those jokes. I never did.
Yeah.
From Dry Bar, most of them I told the first time that night.
Really?
So, yeah.
You just rolled in with some new jokes?
They were never anything more than like the occasional open mic joke. They weren't new, but they were just old, like B-sides.
Was that because you didn't want it to overlap too much with the 4x3? You wanted
that was
people
the thought.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
I did put some 4x3 jokes in there that I liked a lot, that I knew were good and clean. But yeah, you only have to do 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, who cares?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure if I want to try to push it to 25, or if you want to like have like a more perfect 20, or like, hey, I did 25. Just like, what are you trying to?
I always try to. Well, normally if they give me the choice, I'd pick the highest amount of time. But yeah, I was like, I don't trust these jokes. I'm just gonna do 20 if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
But
I was ready for 25, and then we did Catawba last week, and I was like, "Ooh, 20 might be." might be.
Yeah, man.
It turns out I hate all these jokes now.
These jokes.
Glad I came out to practice.
Yeah, I practiced them in my Motel 6 the night before, and got them down.
Yeah, how does that work? You're trying to memorize it. I mean, you don't have any notes on stage or anything to
Not
do.
there, no.
So what do you?
Normally, I have a notebook.
Do you just you have a good memory in general?
No, when I went over them 100 times.
Okay.
And just kept going over them.
I got this thing coming up in a few weeks, so I'm just gonna like going over them means like running them mentally, or like out loud alone into your phone.
I think I don't even think I did, because I was on the road so much. So I think the weekend before that I was in Seattle, and I tried some of them there, and they did okay. I was like, oh, this is good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost all you need. Like, why keep trying till you're like, somebody doesn't like them, and then
Yeah.
you're like, you just lose.
I liked them. Like that was all I cared about.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I like these. These are good.
Yeah, and I imagine like the more you film things, the more confident you are to kind of lean in that direction where you're like, I like it, so fuck it. You know,
Yeah.
like I put out a million albums with a bunch of bands and stuff, and it was the same thing. I noticed a lot of people record their first album, and it's just like trying to send your first video out to get booked. You get lost in mixing it for a year. You fight with your band. You never put it out. You break up. So at the end of the day, it's like nothing you put out is gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
You got to just get them out. And I imagine like the second time you're getting filmed, you're like, well, I've taped a special before.
Yeah.
This is only 20 minutes, so you can kind of roll in with more swagger.
And I was,
And the
I
third
mean,
time
I was
you'll-
nervous as shit, you know, because it's cool and important. And it was like the thing I knew that if I do it, it's going to be more important than anything I've done before. But at the same time, I was like, it's only 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You've never done these jokes in this order. It's okay. You're gonna.
Here
be
we
okay.
go.
Yeah. But I don't do comedy for the crowd. I do it because I like coming up with jokes that I think are funny.
Yeah.
You have to write jokes for yourself. If you're writing jokes for the crowd, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And you should quit.
Yeah.
Or just doing crowd work exclusively. You should put a bullet between your teeth.
I think like there's the whole like phoning it in, you know, somebody's been doing the same act for forever, that having that little bit of like, I threw this together last night and I don't know if it could work, can almost be in your face. Like, I feel like my best sets are the ones where I'm doing something for the first time.
If you're loose and, you know, just having fun, like that's the best way to do it. Because I noticed in my 4x3 that I wasn't very loose. And I wasn't like riffing as much.
It was such a weird room too.
It was a weird room.
I was watching all you guys being like,
yeah,
this is a weird. I don't know why we're doing it in this room when when there's so many rooms that they're like, let's do it.
That's
this
kind of
room.
like been my relationship with Asheville the entire time I've been doing comedy here. Before I moved here, like I think the first time I did it was in 2017 at the festival here, and I killed. And I've never done that well here since.
Chasing that high.
Yeah,
like
constantly chasing that dragon. But yeah,
I mean, it was good, but
yeah.
I think that's kind of like that's just what it is. I mean, anytime you're like, this is going to be the time that we put a timestamp on it,
it's
forever,
not up to you, either. You know, like, you can think it's going to be like the best show you've ever done, but then you can get everything right. You can do everything the way you wanted to do it. Doesn't matter. They're not in this business. Like, it's all up to the people around you. Like, you could tell all the good jokes you like, but it doesn't. You're not going to be the one laughing at them.
Yeah.
So who cares?
Yeah.
I watched that special. And I was just like, I gotta change shit up a little bit. So in the dry bar, I was a little bit more playful, but I was still trying to stick to it. You know, because I knew if I got too loose and playful, I would curse a lot.
Yeah.
I would say fuck or say something bad about Jesus or some shit like that, like I always do. When I'm goofing around,
slip up and let them know who you really are.
I'm an immature little guy. I'm a 33-year-old child. I've got to make fun of something right in front of me, or I'm not doing my job. So I like the dry bar more than the 4x3. I will say that.
That makes sense. I mean, it's their place, right? That they've dialed in like 4x3.
Yeah.
It's like it's our first time in this room too. Let's see what we can do. Let's all
I do wish that I'd only done 30 minutes on the 4x3. I think that would have been better. I think
it 40, 45?
I think I did 43, 45. Anybody who's doing more than 30 in Asheville is insane.
Yeah.
That's hard. It's so hard. Because most of the people here that go to shows are tourists.
Yeah.
You know, and they want somebody who is from the same line as like the most famous comedians in the world. Yeah. And that's not going to happen. You're in a weird town full of weird people.
Yeah, that's what the Catawba shows can be a little like that, where it's like, you know, it is worthwhile. It feels like running with weights on, but I swear it's like the same demographic every time. It's like the old whites of Catawba.
Old whites.
I mean, it's like, so, you know, you don't want them to shape, if you are letting them edit you based on where they laugh, like you got to be careful if you're just staying in one lane. And then you're like, I make the old whites laugh, the ones that go to breweries with scarves.
Yeah.
Those are my, like, I don't even like them, but they were the ones there.
You got to mess with them too. Like, you got to, if that's my favorite thing to do at Catawba, is pick somebody out and mercilessly make fun of them for 20 minutes.
Yeah, like when I was watching other people and I was like, I should have just messed with the old lady with the broken leg.
Come on.
We talked about it
so
for a minute,
easy.
and then I wanted to
So
practice
fucking
my
easy.
jokes, and I'm like, I should have just ragged on the broken.
Yeah, dude. And then there was that lady during my set who laughed for the first time in like 10 minutes in the middle of my set, and then she became the laugh lady. And every time I pointed at her, she'd laugh.
Yeah,
it's shit like that. Like it makes a set sometimes. When it's really difficult.
It's like this is happening right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like short jokes. It's interesting to see how people because it's almost like you need some tricks. Like I don't think people can sit and listen to short jokes attentively for 40
Not
minutes.
for very long.
So it's like whether it's crowd work or I noticed a lot of the short joke people have a bizarre other like Mitch. I mean, he's just like no one should ever talk or move like that. Like Stephen Wright, same
They've got
thing.
a
It's
weird
like,
little gimmick or something.
So there's a whole sub.
Like,
text of just like
that's why
and I
Dimitri
think you kind
Martin-
of have a little of that. You're kind of a little otherworldly.
I've had to.
You're kind of a weirdo
because I got bored of myself.
So it's like you like listen to the jokes, but you're also going, it's a different kind of human. Like you're just kind of trying to figure out like if you came off a spaceship or
you have to do that.
What
you have to because otherwise it's like the 4x3 set. They were bored.
Yeah,
and I was bored. Nobody was having fun. You got to fuck around. You got to do something.
Yeah.
I don't have any musical skills at all. I can't play anything. So I touch shit and I talk to people. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, just go like touch an object in the room.
Yeah.
We're in this room. This is
riff
not
on something for a couple like that's one of the things back to Sam Talent like that he showed me how to do is like play around as much as you want and fill the time that you need to fill with it.
Yeah.
And get good at that. Because initially, like, I'd stick to the script every time, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I got so bored of myself that I had to change it. And that was the beginning of that. It's like watching him just riff and not do any material for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was good. Almost every time it was like really good.
Yeah, and that's usually what I do. But since I'm going to be filming a special, I'm trying to like really just focus on. But I think I might start hating the jokes by during the 8 weeks because I stopped being silly and spontaneous. And then you're like, yeah, that's kind of what comedy needs to feel.
Why it's good.
Like Sam put out those what's that? He put out a special. I think he's put out a couple, right?
He's
One
put
of
a
them's
couple out, yeah.
vignettes. But yeah, it does feel like he's always weaving the right now into the material.
You've got to be present.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's heckling you or talking during the show, like you have to say something about it. You don't, or you're a coward.
Yeah.
Honestly, like
you're telling them that you're afraid to be up there, and then they're like, "Why am I listening to somebody that's?"
I don't want to watch somebody who seems like they're just trying to get through it.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah,
like break out of your weird little cocoon and try to like scream at somebody.
Yeah, I go to my kids' like talent shows, and like I have to watch other people's kids like hopefully make it, but we're grown-ups and this is comedy. Like this is on you. You should be.
You're not getting like a participation point award for it. You're not getting like a handshake from everybody in the crowd.
Yeah,
your dad's not taking you to Sonic after the show or some shit. Just do it. Just break out of your weird shell. And I think part of that is just doing more comedy. And one of the issues with Asheville is that there's not that much comedy going on, because of open mics like the Wednesday one. They kind of cannibalize good, like shitty mics. They cannibalize shitty mics.
Yeah,
like who else wants to start a mic on a Wednesday when they have that?
Yeah, Yeah, that's the big one. We got the Wednesday and Tuesday are the long running ones.
Yeah,
the odd Wednesdays.
Rules.
Yeah,
I love the odd.
Yeah,
yeah.
The odd could
Julie
be a lot of fun.
Great.
That's probably my home base one. That's the first place I ever did stand up.
Really?
And I still love to. But then it's like right now I'm trying to work on tightening up material, so it's like there's no reason I go there with like a notepad full of barely formed ideas. And I really like it too.
I think it's the best mic in town.
Really?
I haven't been to the Wednesday one either, but based on what I've heard, it is the best mic by default.
Yeah.
In terms of how good the crowd is, but that doesn't matter. I think
Wednesday's more like a mainstream room.
Yeah, I think
more like a club, and
the odd is like a really good alt room where you really have to be funny. Because there are normal people in the crowds most of the time.
Yeah.
Whether they're normal or they're like hobbyists, like, once a month comics or whatever.
Yeah. And they've been doing like punk rock and burlesque shows and shit in that room for so long that the vibe is conducive to. Yeah.
I love that place.
Yeah.
I need to go. I wanted to go last night and I didn't.
Yeah, it's special for me because I was I played there in the 2000s with my band, and like I was the average age of people in that room.
Yeah.
And then as I get like older, and balder, and my glasses get like I keep coming back and trying to like here's
you guys remember
the
me?
room, yeah, but the room stays. The room's like we're in our 20s and we're old as fuck, and it's like trying to keep like connected to.
Yeah, everybody's got fresh tattoos.
Yeah,
like I'm too old for a friend. I feel too old to get a new tattoo.
Yeah,
I'm like 33.
Yeah.
That
Do you have
sucks.
tattoos?
I have 5.
Okay.
And they're all like small. Yeah. I got like. Yeah, they're all like along in my shoulders.
I want to get them, but I just don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
It's like I think it's time, but it's like
get one.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can go just be like, you're good. Give me something.
Yeah.
You can just do that, right? You don't have to even have it in mind. But then you have something on you that you're like, people are like, what's
you
the
might
story
have
there?
An
you're
idea
like,
of something.
But that's where I've been stalled for the last 20 years is like the idea.
Come up with something good.
Yeah, I can't commit to that.
I got a tattoo in Asheville before I lived here. It's when I die, let me know. I got it tattooed on my chest. It's like a joke that never worked that I thought was funny and got it tattooed. I think this would be a good do not resuscitate replacement.
This seems like one you could make work in the act. Surprised.
Yeah, I just never gave it. I think a joke like that, I need to put more around it, and I have too much ego about some of these jokes. I'm like, it's perfect. I don't need to fix it.
Yeah. So what does that mean? Like, are you always kind of like reordering things, and imagine you find like a cluster of related jokes, or you go, oh, this one didn't work till I said it after that one. Mm-hmm. Is there some kind of sequencing game?
Usually it's like I find a cluster, then I just throw it together. Usually when I would write a joke about a subject, I wouldn't write another joke about that thing ever again. Mm-hmm. And then 6 years later, I would accidentally write a joke about that same thing, and then it would go together.
So if you do like 20 minutes or something, like do you go, that's about 30 or 40 jokes? Do you have a...
I've got like a general outline of a set in my head at all times. Mm-hmm.
Like the current set I want to do. And then if it gets a shorter set, you kind of shave it down to your favorites.
The top jokes or whatever. But yeah, if it's like 20 minutes, I got like 15 minutes that I'll do, and then 5 to just fuck around and do either different jokes than normal or crowd work stuff, whatever. Riff.
Yeah.
I like to riff. Riffing's
and
fun.
And is that 5 minutes kind of reserved? Do you have a spot for it in mind, or is it like when the energy needs it?
Usually when I just forget what's next.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I can fuck. I got a notebook here that's open to some jokes. I'll just pick some out.
So right now, if you were doing like 45 minutes or 10 minutes, like you would probably open and close with maybe the same. Yeah.
Usually,
but it's just
I've been closing differently recently because the past few years I've been closing with a dumb little story about Wichita, a show I did in Wichita. And I've fallen out of love with that. I never loved it, but it was a fun little joke to end it on because I thought I had to switch it up because people were bored or whatever.
A story. You said a story.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's a little different than maybe your usual.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's about this couple came up to me after a show in Wichita, and the husband wanted to shake my hand. And his wife was behind him, and she was like, no, honey, they don't like to do that. And then I say, can you guys guess why she didn't want me to do that? And then usually people say, like, COVID or some shit. This is like 2018 or something. So they're wrong. And I say, close. And then I say, she thought I had full-blown autism. And then I'd say I shook a stupid fucking hand every time. And then I'd say I drove home to my parents' house where I lived because I have autism. And I told my mom about that, and she said, yeah, we never got you tested because we just thought it was kind of cute. And then I say, so if you guys get anything out of the show, like if you're an aunt, uncle, grandparent, parent, you find a feral child behind an old grocery store, scoop that little fucker up and take him to wherever you get tested for autism, probably the train tracks. Because if one of those little goofballs writes a better sperm whale joke than me, I will kill myself. And that's how I would end like 2 years of shows, I think.
Yeah.
But then one day my girlfriend told me she didn't like it. And I was like, I don't really like it that much either. I don't like telling stories. I think they suck.
So you don't have any ambitions to like try to do it in some other way?
Fuck no. I wrote a book. I wrote a book of like short stories. I write some stupid little short stories.
You want some longer thoughts so you can read the book, but on stage you want to do the
and I'd written, I put like journal entries and stuff, like more long form shit in there. But no, I don't think jokes should be long ever.
No one ever complains that a joke is too short. I don't think.
Yeah. I like, it's fun to me to write the shortest joke I can possibly write. And I think, what was the shortest joke I've written? I think it was
When I Die, Let Me Know.
No, that's 6. Was that 7 words? 6 words?
It's pretty short.
I've written 2 that are 4 words long. One is I was born illiterate.
Yeah.
That's like, that used to be my opener.
Yeah.
And then the other one was I had SIDS once. I never told that joke because I have a lisp and I can't get it out right. Not because I don't think it's funny. It's also kind of fucked up. I don't want to get beat up by a dad whose kid had SIDS or something just for bringing it up. But
seems fine.
Seems fine.
You're in a comedy show. Maybe try laughing about your dead. Maybe laugh about your dead kid. See him trying to fight me. Like this is clearly you need to laugh about your.
I don't think his little ghost could take me. I don't know. I'll be all right. Pretty big compared to a baby ghost. But yeah, I like writing. The most of my one-liners were longer jokes, and I just whittled them down.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's
But now I can kind of just like think like that exclusively.
Yeah, I mean, I'm brevity like across the board, like movies, shows. Like I get it to its fucking like. The one thing I do like about the TikToks and the Reels is people have found out how to be like, you want to assemble a piece of. Somebody's made a 1-minute edited thing, whereas like 5 years ago it was like today we're gonna learn how to like get to the fucking like I think brevity is everything, whether it's like the Dao De Ching or Stephen Wright jokes or just
I will say like I grew up listening to a lot of Tool, so I listened to long songs since I was a kid. And like I got a fucking Godspeed You Black Emperor shirt on. They have like 30-minute songs. Yeah. I like shit like that. Yeah. Like I'll listen to long music and watch Lord of the Rings all the time if I want to.
But it's still kind
comedy,
of like
man,
even
I want to laugh.
Those things are still though they're not like filler though, right?
Sure.
I mean, even though it's 30 minutes, it's like very like it's very
it's loaded.
Yeah, well designed.
Most comics aren't smart enough or good enough writers to write something that's 5 minutes long that actually belongs or needs to be 5 minutes long. I think most of it's just oohs and ums and ahs.
Yeah, I know.
And then like it's basically just one-liners with a bunch of shit in between. Which at that point it's like you do write one-liners, you just don't see it.
Yeah,
just write one-liners.
Yeah,
I think if most comics looked themselves in the mirror and like saw the material that they're saying and really analyzed it, they would just write short jokes forever. That's all they're doing now.
I have a couple of one-liners I really want to get in the special, but it can be hard to. Life is like playing Scrabble. It should be more fun. But it's hard to. Hey, I got kids, and today I was, and then you're like, life is like playing Scrabble. It can almost be hard to weave a one-liner in because I think it's a different rhythm, and like I have some that I really want to put in, but I notice if I do like just a short set of one-liner jokes, people go, "Oh, that's what this is," and they'll start laughing. But if you're talking about your life in the first person, and then I do them, sometimes they're like, it's almost like
I think if
too
it's funny,
jarring.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Maybe
they're just not.
I don't
funny.
think it matters at all. I think because a lot of people come up to me in the past and they've said like, "Hey, I've got some one-liners. I can't do anything with them, but if you want them, you can have them." And it's like you just put them in there.
Yeah.
If it's funny, and most of them suck.
Yeah.
But if it's funny, then you'll find a way to put it in there.
Yeah.
If you like it, then you'll figure it out.
One of the things that I am really excited about having the mission to kind of record is the ums and the ahs and stuff to really. There's always a lot of stuff that I've been working on lately that has more of those. So I think it's an interesting challenge to try to do the whole act like Like you know exactly what the
Yeah.
beats and the words are,
Riddle it all.
which probably should be doing all the time.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
you know, so,
That's the thing.
so that's my hope
Like,
is that after
the way that you're preparing for this is the way you should prepare
right.
every day.
and my hope is that like
sucks.
after you do it, you go, well, now it is going to be a little more like that forever because I did. This is like a big
It won't
before
be.
and after. No, you just slip right back into like
I think about my prep for Dry Bar, and it's just like another person. Like I don't, for one, I barely tell any of those jokes still, and I'll never ever prepare for anything like that again. I'll never like go over my notes for hours in my hotel room the night before, ever. It sucks. It's a bad way to do comedy. And if you're doing
it
like
makes
if
it into
you've
some
got
job like a test in school, like it
Well, dude,
makes
like-
the thing that you love. Into,
and well, that's you start doing comedy because you want to have fun, right? Like the part of it is that it's fun.
well, and the validation that
Sure,
you didn't get from
it's fun
whoever.
to be validated too.
you know. Otherwise, you're a lonely loser. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, people are looking at you and laughing.
Sure, but like that's why touring is fun too.
Yeah.
Because the money doesn't matter. Like when you first start, the money doesn't matter, and you're just doing shit with your friends. You're doing what you love, blah blah blah, and then it becomes like a job, and you're like, fuck this, this sucks. Just get back to the way it was before.
Yeah, there's people who don't
way more
ever
fun.
send the video and they stay at the open mic and get drunk. They actually
They have so much fun.
they figure
they're the
that-
happiest people in the world.
They're just hanging out, They're like driving 6
And
hours
a
alone.
lot of them are really funny too. And they're just like wasting away, and it rules.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of them.
Yeah,
because every inch of my
they
being,
realize that they have enough. Perhaps.
Yeah.
You're like, all I wanted to do is like be part of a local scene.
There's so much beauty in that, like realizing that you've got enough.
Yeah.
With just like 10 Miller Lights.
I'm not good at that.
your
I
notebook.
do plan to go Stephen Wright at some point. I do
Uh-huh.
think at some age it's like you don't need to be going like, "Hey, young people, look at my old face," you know. Like, but
Yeah.
that day's not come for me yet. But that day probably is coming.
I think I accidentally did it when we moved here. I do so little comedy now.
Yeah.
And I'm like I hate that. I want to do more comedy, but it's not because I'm like depressed in a shitty place, and it's because I'm having fun at my house with my girlfriend and my dog.
Yeah.
And I'd rather do that.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe you.
It's great. I want to do comedy more, obviously, but
Yeah, there's that notion that like the grinding. I mean, obviously, getting up as much as possible is the thing you should do. But like, I've had some of my best sets when I didn't go out as much. Like I was so excited to be on stage again because I hadn't been up. And I always heard like if you muscle memory, you don't go up for 2 weeks, you forget how to tell jokes. Like I heard that on every podcast, and then I just didn't do it one time, and I went up and I was like, I think I did better. Because I was excited to be back on stage.
You weren't as rigid.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
What you hear on most podcasts with other comedians who, even some famous ones, like they're just regurgitating bullshit they heard from another podcast from another fucking idiot comic who thinks they know what they're talking about.
That's why I don't
all
listen
of
to
these
them
people
anymore.
are stupid. We are not. This isn't like nothing makes me more mad than comedians who think they're philosophers, who think they're like intellectuals. Joe Rogan, fucking like the Gas Digital guys who up in New York, like the holier than now, like. You can say what you want. It's a fucking preservation of the spoken word and all this shit. Like, go fuck yourself. You are. And then you watch them do comedy. And it's like the worst 20 minutes you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
Because they're so far up their own ass that they don't remember how to be comedians. Just shut up. Quit trying to say, like, I read philosophy shit. I'm not talking about it. I don't care. That's weird. That's not what it's for.
Yeah, I think Bugs Bunny is funnier than
than fucking
Socrates.
Yeah.
Whoever.
Jesus Christ! Like, you're not anything special because you do comedy.
I think just being comfortable up there and finding your voice, some of that cliche stuff like that is like that's just like I was so nervous to be like if I had to stand up in front of the class growing up. And even just say something, I would like not know how to talk or stand. So I think for me, comedy is kind of like I enjoy that aspect of it, being like, oh, I'm actually pretty comfortable up here.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to fix from earlier in my life with that.
It's a cool thing to challenge yourself with.
Yeah.
Like at the root of it.
Yeah.
It's a very accessible art form.
Yeah.
It's not like music where you have to have some kind of instrument. It's not painting where you have to have shit. Like you just have to have some people don't even write their own shit out. It's all in their head.
Yeah.
You don't have to have anything. You
Yeah.
have to have somebody facilitating it.
Even the stool was not 100% necessary.
Exactly.
It should be there. I like the stool, but
you do need
the microphone, speakers. Yeah, I like it, like trying to get more into the pauses and the silences and stuff. Like to me, when someone's up there and they're taking pauses and like there's that rhythm, it's not just like blah blah blah, which is kind of how this podcast is a bit more like the likes and ums. I listen back to this, I'm like, oh, okay, but getting it like that slow rhythm, I think that like to me that's almost more musical than music. Like I played music my whole life, but like the pauses, there's something about that. Like just seeing somebody work a room with pause and rhythm.
I love playing around with. I used to do it a lot more when I was more deadpan, I guess, and I've kind of gotten out of it. But I love being quiet on stage.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
It's the most confident, coolest shit you can do.
But they hate it.
Yeah,
and crowds are like, "What's going on?" You're like, "I got you in the palm of my hand. I'm going to tell the worst joke you've ever heard in 2 seconds. I'm going to tell a shitty joke about dogs or something, and you're going to love it."
Yeah, because we'll do like those bad shows sometimes where no one can really do well, and I notice a lot of people try to get louder and more animated, and just like. But I like to try to sit down and get. But then a lot of times it doesn't work, and then you're just sitting there taking pauses, and it's still bad.
But then it just looks like you've given up, and you have no choice but to be up there.
But it's like, I don't know, you're not hiding behind I mean, some people are just amazing at being like animated and jumping around, but that's not me anyway. So
no, me neither.
I enjoy trying to relax up there. I think is a worthwhile life's work,
Try not to be on edge all the time about it,
because there's something in all of our minds where like when it's your turn to talk and they're all watching you, they're like they're gonna judge me, or they're gonna cast me out, or something. There's something in our DNA, and I think trying to conquer that fear is just get better at it year after year. Is like it keeps you from getting depressed about other shit. Like it's just a worthy
I
life's
think a
work.
really good way of getting over that is just intentionally telling bad comedy. Just being bad for a little while, not at an open mic, just at shows.
Like when they've paid.
Sure,
be like, let's do some of the worst.
Doing really bad. Like, you're. That's the best way to get over a fear, is like intentionally being bad at something for as long as you want. Most comedians look like they're doing that already.
Yeah. Pretty sure. Cool.
Present company included.
Yeah, I mean it's so saturated now, and I mean who it's so subjective too. I mean that's part of it too. It's like who's somebody we all agree is funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not even.
I don't know any comics anymore.
Yeah,
who are like actually good and famous.
You gonna start a mic out there in Clyde?
I would like to do something.
Start a room
like Waynesville.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
There are some dudes that run shows in Waynesville like 4 times a year at a pizza place.
Yeah. It's very sparse. There's not a lot going on. But yeah, I would like to have like 2 shows a month or something.
Yeah.
Maybe a mic. I don't think people would come to a mic out there. It's far, but
yeah, I'll come for a show. Not for a mic.
No. I was thinking about maybe like an all arts mic, just to get anybody out there. Like I know there's musicians in Waynesville because the breweries there always have them playing. That's why they won't do a fucking comedy show, because music's more accessible. Breweries in America are a terrible thing.
Yeah. Right? It's the new age.
Oh man, dude. I like
brewery culture.
When I was living in Knoxville, I hit up a bunch of breweries out there trying to run shows, and half of them said no because they have too many kids there now.
Yeah.
You're a brewery.
Yeah.
Why? You're not any different than a bar.
It used to be like a bar was some seedy place where children shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And that was good. But now it's like, bring the dogs and the kids and we'll all just hang out.
Yeah.
And it's just like the echoey space and there's like children laughing. And you're like,
I ran a show at High Wire in Knoxville. I'm not going to talk shit on High Wire. They didn't like it.
They probably don't listen. They probably don't listen to this podcast.
That's true. Who cares?
If they're at an hour in and they're...
Yeah, if High Wire is...
I listened to this because I enjoyed working with Naylor. But it turns out he's just talking shit about
the High Wire show that Melissa runs. I did that once, and that was a fun show.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think it's the one that's probably underwater now. But
yeah, I even can't keep the breweries I've done here straight in my mind. I know Catawba because I've done it far more than any other. Like
But yeah, so the High Wire in Knoxville was just huge room,
Yeah.
huge, like literally a warehouse that they made into a brewery / like playhouse. It had like ping pong and like huge like lunchroom tables,
games
and shit. Just the worst shit you can imagine for comedy.
It's the most cultureless culture. It's like I went and did a brewery show at Raleigh recently. No, actually, it was Charlotte, and it's like this could definitely be Asheville or Knoxville.
Yeah.
This is
It's all the
worst
same.
place to do comedy, but it could be in any. It's just and people are wearing the like we just worked out, and we're here with their kids, and there's like
12
some
beers
bad
and drive
pizza,
our shitty kids home.
and there's just like like the brewery noise is just
There's
like
a food truck outside taking up 4 parking spots,
and it's just the echoes are just there's empty chairs everywhere, and you're just like, God damn it!
Nobody's
and the
fucking
breweries
there.
like have money because they're
Breweries.
poisoning our world.
Yeah. They're making like people die.
But yeah, I don't really need. Yeah,
It's so
breweries
funny.
are.
It's the
Not
antithesis
good.
of culture.
Yeah. And they
I
put 'em
love
in
them. I will
drafty,
say that.
echoey.
Oh, I know.
Like
the worst
just
places in the world.
There's like a million gallons of
Yeah.
air just floating. It's like the Catawba's like those dreams where you try to like fight, but you're slow or whatever your version of that dream is. Like you're like moving through molasses.
Yeah.
That's how the jokes feel, and there it's just like,
Sometimes, yeah.
you can't like
Yeah.
try to get the, but it's just
It's hard to get one hit hard at a
Yeah.
brewery, which sucks because I love doing comedy in breweries.
Yeah.
I think they could be good places because so little goes on there that's worth a shit. Like it's always some fucking whoever playing acoustic guitar, like covers of like Hall & Oates for some reason. Nobody gives a shit about Hall & Oates. They don't want to hear Rich Girl again. But you're gonna do it. They're like playing like Iron and Wine and Pink Floyd and shit, which rules. But when they sing it, not when you fucking sing it. Jim from Waynesville, North Carolina. But yeah, then you're like, oh, I want to do a comedy at your brewery, and they're like, no, we're not fucking stupid.
yeah.
Who are you? Like, I don't know, somebody who wants to do comedy at your brewery and bring some kind of different shit to your nothing place. Like, why not? They just won't do it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Insane, dude. I don't want to do comedy in a gross old bar anymore. I mean, I do, but I don't want to be responsible for it.
Well, I don't know. Should we call it there? That might be a good note to end on.
I don't want to do comedy anymore.
Yeah. Well, you moved to Clyde, so it's
That was a good
you're
start.
living your dream.
Every move I
Asheville
make
is
is
your
lateral.
closest big city, so I think that you're well positioned for.
I think you're right. I've got to start doing it in my garage or something.
Yeah.
My shed.
Yeah. You got a shed?
We got a big shed.
Hell yeah.
Good sized shed.
Yeah.
I was telling you before, we want to make it into like a tiny house.
Yeah.
I want to make it into a comedy club.
Do it. Do that. That sounds great.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Do like 6 o'clock shows, 8 o'clock.
Sleep by
Early,
11.
the early comedy club.
Yeah.
All
Well-
I need is investors.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of rich people watch Ryan Cox's podcast.
They're my Catawba
Home Planet.
Rich Whites mailing
Yeah.
list people.
You got a nice house and a nice little shed. Come on.
Yeah.
People with 10 grand,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I make a good salary.
Yeah.
But I support 4 people, so
Yeah.
I still live on the same $20 a week that I did when I delivered pizzas. But I do know people from work
Sure.
who didn't have kids, and they both earn money, and they are fucking loaded.
I bet.
They're always like, "We just went on this other trip." I'm
crazy.
like, "I want to hear about your fucking fancy trip." I was trying to do comedy.
I
in
was
all
happy
50
at home. Fuck you.
Yeah. It's good though.
Yeah.
Wouldn't change it. Can't change it. So
No, you can't.
can't.
You can't. You can't do anything about the life you chose. I'm sorry,
Well-
bud. Congrats on Dry Bar.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah. I'm convinced there's going to be some global pandemic that stops it from happening.
Probably.
But I am starting to
I'm
announce
sure
it.
there will be.
So
There will be either that or martial law.
yeah.
It's gonna be a fun year. It's gonna rule. I'm horrified.
Yeah. It's gonna be right. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't vote for him, but it's going to be all right. All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
for having me.